6.5 Cathaoirleach, can I welcome the Minister to the House and to say clearly and absolutely that he has been anything but silent, feeble or weak in relation to this issue, nor indeed has the government or the opposition parties in this House, nor indeed has all of our colleagues in the European Union. They have, all of them and each and every one of them, back what we're saying here, that Britain must abide to the agreement that they signed, and the EU very clearly, unambiguously, with total clarity, fully support this government and the people on this island, north and south, in their wish for peace and in the consent for the future relationship we must have between north and south. And I think that's a point that must be made, notwithstanding what my colleague Peadar Tóibín has just said. I think that it's hugely important that the relationship, which is now sundered between the European Union and Britain, we must ensure that whatever happens, that the Brexit that is happening and which we cannot change is as soft as possible as it can be. And I think that if you were to measure the importance and the significance of the Irish government and its civil servants and their influence, you had to do no more than to listen to the former British ambassador to the United States this morning on Irish radio when he said that Ireland has a punch far beyond its weight, that it has huge influence in America, and indeed the fact that both one of the candidates, Joe Biden, and Nancy Pelosi, who is a senior political leader in America, are very clear that the withdrawal agreement, is a fundamental issue, and that the protocols in relation to Northern Ireland are and must remain sacrosanct in all and every event. I've been appointed by the government as chairman of the implementation committee for the Good Friday Agreement in the houses of the Oireachtas. Now, we haven't met as yet, and we will be meeting next week, but I participated today in a discussion on Zoom with Lord Kinnoul, who is chairman of the House of Lords EU Committee, along with my colleague, Deputy Joe McHugh. And we discussed, and we made very clear from our views, and I think we represented the views of everybody in this House, opposition and government parties, exactly what we thought about what was happening. And nevertheless, we did listen to what he had to say, and we fully support the idea that he put forward to us, that we ought to have a lot more communication between members of the House here and obviously members of the British House of Parliament, and in particular our British Irish Interparliamentary Body. It has a huge importance in the past, and I think will have an increasing significance into the future. And it will be up to our committee to decide to do this, but to communicate regularly. And I suppose there's one thing this crisis in COVID has brought, is the capacity to meet people from distant shores or not so far away on a regular basis more frequently over the internet. I think that's exactly what we will do to enforce, as members of this House and of the Senate here, the views and the strong opinions that we have, and the view that we must have, that the new relationship that has to come anyway between Britain and Ireland, and between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland as a result of Brexit, we must put a lot more thought into what is going to happen in the future. And I think that the British government are in absolutely no doubt whatsoever of our strongly held and immovable views in relation to the protocols in Northern Ireland. There is no other way. There cannot be any diminution, and there will not be, as far as we're concerned. And I think that the British government has to think again. And if there's a mechanism within their parliament, and they have every right to legislate for what goes on inside their parliament, but they cannot break an international agreement willy-nilly. They cannot decide to put up a red flag to something they've already signed up to. And indeed, the international reputation of the United Kingdom is at stake here, not just with Europe, not just with America, but also with other countries that they would hope to have a business and commercial relationship into the future. And I speak particularly about China and other major blocs in the world. So I think at the end of the day, this debate here would clearly point out to the United Kingdom and their government exactly where we all stand on this, that we will have no truck with breaking these protocols, that nobody on this island, I believe, wants to go back to the way things were. We don't want to go back to the violence. We don't want to go back to the sadness and the awful 30 years of murder and mayhem that we had north and south on this island. Nobody wants to go back there. We don't want any customs border posts on our island between north and south. We don't want the appalling vista of the breaking down of our commercial relationships between large companies and smaller companies between our two islands. And we want to ensure that, I think, and what's very important, and I want to make it very clear that we have hugely important personal relationships outside of our business and our political relationships with the United Kingdom, and we don't want to see them sundered or changed in any way. And I think that the British government must change their proposals in relation to the protocols of the withdrawal agreement, and must uphold in full and in totality everything that's in the Good Friday Agreement. And finally, like my colleague Peter Fitzpatrick, I'm a border TD as well, and like him, I want to see our peace and the peace that was restored to County Louth, and particularly along the border. We wanted to continue, and the benefits of the Good Friday Agreement in terms of health cooperation, education cooperation and so on must continue into the future. And there's only one way forward on this island, and that's with all of us working together. Carmargaret.